Hey there and welcome back to another My Hero Academia video. And today we'll be talking about the latest episode to drop, episode 6, Encounter Part 2, which follows up from the massive events of the previous episode, where we saw Tokoyami briefly go head to head with Darby to try to save Hawks, while Shigaraki woke up and interrupted the hospital basement battle to unleash a massive decay wave that trashed the majority of the city and killed a bunch of the heroes present. So yeah, everything's really starting to kick off now, and it's getting quite exciting. But before we begin, I would like to say I have read the manga, and I'm aware of any future plot points and details. But for the purpose of these reviews, I like to approach them from an anime perspective, just to allow anime-only fans to watch along and join in too. And so with all that being said, let's jump into the episode. So we start off the episode with a look at the Mountain Villa battle, so we can just keep that storyline progressing a little bit, before moving into the main event for this episode, Shigaraki unleashing even more terror in the ruins of the city. But yeah, the villa first. We follow Fat Gum as he charges back towards the battlefield to try and find Tokoyami, but after being forced to dodge the falling ass of Mount Lady as Getten knocked her backwards with the ice, he realises that he honestly returned for nothing as Tokoyami's already saved Hawks and is coming back. And so he sends him off to the rear guard where there should be a first aid station set up so Hawks can get healed. And really, this opening sequence just gave us a bit of an excuse to watch the heroes and the villains keep fighting. It's a fun little scene that highlights a few different minor characters, with some of our less prominent heroes getting their moment in the sun to hit their special moves and move on. Gaten and Cementos then engage each other in a quick test of strength, with Cementos blocking his ice attacks with his superior cement, before Mount Lady gets involved to start smashing up some of his ice as well, as she's a little bit annoyed about him knocking her down with his first big attack. So Cementos makes her a giant baseball bat and she just starts swinging for the fences. But thankfully, it isn't just the heroes wailing on the villains and taking wins left and right. The story's bothering to show the villains having their moments too, and it stays balanced like a compelling battle should be. And Toga's probably the main example of that here. She kills a bunch of different random minor heroes in pretty quick succession using her quirk to disguise herself as the guy that twice killed in his final act to save her and Compress. And honestly, I really love Toga's badass rage moments, like when she slaughtered those members of the Liberation Army last season. Just really helps her character to stand out from the pack. She then monologues about how she wants a world in which only the things that she likes still exist, before there's an ominous rumbling, followed by Gigantomachia bursting out from the ground. So yeah, looks like there's going to be a massive massacre in this battlefield as well, and I'm very excited to see where that goes. And even though this was just the prologue, a taster for next time, I'm still frustrated that this was the last we saw of the storyline for this episode. If I'm being honest, I think I prefer to just have the episodes not cut back and forth. I always find myself feeling slightly unfulfilled, like there's only half the story present. I'd really prefer to just divide up the storylines by episode instead of cutting back and forth, but maybe that's just me. Anyway though, Darby smirks about Shigaraki being awake before we cut to the man himself. A man who's still standing around after dusting the city and unleashing the big man in the mountain villa, and is now hearing voices inside his head chanting one for all. So clearly this is the lingering consciousness of All for One within the quirk that's driving him to seek out this last greatest quirk to absorb to finally be complete. But no time to worry about that now, as Endeavor's seemingly already dropped off Mirko's beaten body somewhere safe and is back and ready to rumble. And it's clear from the get-go that despite Endeavor being the strongest that the heroes have, even he's really no match for what Shigaraki's become, as he has hyper healing, and a whole bunch of new quirks that allow him to keep up with Endeavor's speed and attack him in various different ways, and on top of that, he has the added bonus of simply needing to touch him once to win. And realistically at this point, feels like the arc's shaping up to be less who can take down Shigaraki, and more which heroes are going to survive Shigaraki's onslaught before he gets tired and has to run away. So yeah, despite Endeavor being a far more skilled combatant than Shigaraki, Shigaraki's cheat codes have allowed him to access the full might of his new quirks as if he's always had them, and thus he can overpower Endeavor in a 1 versus 1. Maybe not outright kill him, but since he has essential invulnerability and a quirk for all occasions for short, medium and close range, the dude's stacked. And yet despite that, he has the hunger for one for all. His body craves it. And luckily, as we're reminded by a cutaway to Ragdoll, All for One stole the search quirk, which allows Shigaraki to hone in on Deku's location and start hunting him. And honestly, I like this. You can see that despite this new change in his body and quirk, his personality is still intact. He still searches for that instant gratification. He doesn't bother with trying to kill Endeavor. He just instantly decides, nah, I want that quirk, and I will take that quirk. Which ultimately puts him in more danger, as he's attracting all the heroes to himself without stopping to take time to kill anyone. But yeah, Endeavor hears Shigaraki say the words "one for all," which he then repeats over the team comm and pretty much makes Deku shit his pants. Oh, yeah, Shigaraki's awake with multiple quirks and now he's hunting me down. Just another day at UA. And he has no Eri nearby now to let him break himself and rapid heal him, so he can't even fight him all out without shattering his bones. Which in turn means he probably can't even come close to winning. Yeah, I too would be shitting my pants. So Burnin leads a few heroes off to try and help Endeavor, while Shigaraki, using his own base strength, leaps towards the evacuation zone in search of Deku. And I gotta ask, how the hell is he strong enough to do that, to jump like that and shatter a mountain, but Endeavor was able to keep him pinned down? How strong is Endeavor? Anyway, in the meantime, in the evacuation zone, Deku sees all these people that will die if Shigaraki turns up, and so he does the only thing he can do, run away towards danger to try and lure Shigaraki away, with Bakugo coming with him as he's the only one who even knows why Deku's leaving in the first place, and thus was able to figure out that Deku would leave without telling anybody, so that the heroes wouldn't try to protect him and thus split their forces, putting the lives of the civilians at risk. And I really love this whole exchange. I feel like one of the big elements of Bakugo's character that really slips under the radar quite a lot is just how smart he is. How easily he's able to read other characters, their motivations, strengths, weaknesses, potential plans. Whether it's Deku, other heroes, villains, he really just holds his own through sheer determination and an expert ability to read everybody. In the aftermath of this, Deku then gets on the line with Endeavor and tells him what's up, and that he needs to let him know if Shigaraki changes course to follow his new direction. And of course, Endeavor is a bit pissed at all this. And why wouldn't you be? He has no idea why Shigaraki would be chasing Deku, and Deku is his student, in his care, basically one of his sidekicks. And he's just informed him that he's not only being hunted by one of the most dangerous villains in the world at this point, who's already killed a lot of top heroes right in front of Endeavor, but he's also intentionally trying to bait him. I'd be so mad if I was Endeavor, and worried. And I really love the character growth we're seeing here. He's gone from using Midoriya as a tool to push Todoroki harder, to being his begrudging mentor, to having him over at his house for dinner, and is now panicking because he's in extreme danger and is trying to save him. And then on the other side of the coin, Bakugo masks his own concern about Deku's safety by yelling at him about how he has unfinished business with Shigaraki, and that he still has to wipe away the shame of being captured during the forest training arc. And on top of that, he has to unleash his rage about that battle being the reason that All Might lost his powers. He clearly blames himself, but also blames Shigaraki. And so, using Deku as bait, he intends to make Shigaraki pay big time. And honestly, it is very cute how much of a secret All Might fanboy Bakugo is. I kind of hope that somewhere in Bakugo's house there's a secret room stuffed with All Might merch, just like Deku had. It would be the ultimate plot twist. But of course, beneath all of these righteous reasons for Bakugo coming to fight is also the simple truth. He refuses to lose to Deku. He won't let him surpass him. And even though he can see that Deku's starting to pull away in terms of raw strength, he intends to keep pushing. And this whole internal monologue he gives felt very Endeavor-esque. That despite the overwhelming strength that Deku/All Might had from their quirk, Bakugo/Endeavor will never give up trying to equal or surpass them. They'll keep pushing harder and harder to achieve that goal. Really love the parallels, to be honest. And then moving back to Shigaraki, he uses some tactical reasoning and decides to hamper the hero's ability to communicate with each other, launching himself into the sky and combining a radio wave quirk with his air blast to fry all the communications in the vicinity and prevent Endeavor calling anybody for help, or allowing him to warn Deku when they're approaching. And of course, the useless mission control keeps on panicking as now they have no idea what's going on there at all. And also, these radio waves start to seep into the ground, where the remnants of a few Nomu tanks are still hanging around untouched by the decay. And they start to glow, and obviously start to activate, just to ensure that Shigaraki doesn't get swarmed by all the heroes, and makes him holding his own against everybody a more realistic feat. For the story to work, the minor heroes kind of need some busy work to stop them linking up with Endeavor, and so these Nomus are going to be the perfect fodder for them to fight. And yeah, he then appears out of nowhere, ready to kill Deku and Bakugo and steal Deku's quirk at the same time, moving so fast that there'd be nothing that they can really do to avoid him. They were toast, even if they weren't suddenly paralyzed by fear, much like All For One did to them during the Kamino arc, simply through his aura of evil. But luckily enough for them, Gran Torino arrives just in the nick of time and saves them, preventing the show ending with Deku's premature death. And then so the heroes arrive, ready to take on Shigaraki. Ryukyu blows him away with her wings, but ends up getting touched. But it has no effect. Cause guess who's standing there glaring at him? Why, it's Aizawa, who's activated his angry parent mode now that he's noticed that Shigaraki was trying to hurt Bakugo and Deku. And I'll be honest, Papa Aizawa never gets old. And so yeah, they have a really awesome team up montage where everybody gets a chance to slap Shigaraki around, culminating in a massive attack from Endeavor, which Shigaraki dodges, as even with his quirks suppressed, his body's been bioengineered to be super strong, much like All Might, although not quite as strong because he needs to retain some brain function, which in turn means that since he has all that strength and yet retains his mind, he's pretty much become the perfect Nomu. But it also means that when Deku finally hits that 100%, Shigaraki just won't be as strong as him. He'll need to rely on all those extra quirks to get by. And now he's dodging Ryukyu and Endeavor like it's nothing, whilst Gran Torino tries to get Deku and Bakugo far enough away to keep them out of danger, but not too far that Shigaraki's going to follow them using Search and be unleashed upon the world. So he basically has to tell the two kids that are the most likely in the world to interfere in things, stand back and don't interfere. Whilst he in turn wants to go back and act as Aizawa's legs so they can always keep Shigaraki's quirk suppressed. But then, as this is all going down, all the Nomu underground wake up and start to attack, preventing the rush of minor heroes making their way over to help fight Shigaraki. And I have a bit of a sinking feeling that a lot of these no-namers and minor heroes are about to get massacred. And so yeah, after a preview that promises a lot more carnage on both battlefronts, we end the episode. And yeah, this season's really shaping up quite nicely, and is building to what's eventually going to be a really epic final confrontation between Deku, Bakugo, and Shigaraki. I really can't wait to see how it all plays out on screen. And so, with all that being said, these were just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? You like it, hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.